Wait. All right. What's going on, everybody? I know you have probably heard, I think you probably heard like a whole bunch of stuff as it relates to the foolishness and the buffoonery. Um, from my summation, from my perspective, and my opinion, that is real crazy. That has just taken place in Florida. And, it's very interesting when you think about it, right? It's very interesting the stuff that has occurred and why it has occurred. And I think we cannot just sit back because let me tell you something. Governor DeSantis has a desire, and he's a presidential candidate. Did y'all hear what I just said? Governor DeSantis is a presidential candidate. I told somebody a long time ago, some of us are so caught up and worried about a Donald Trump. If there is one Donald Trump in the world and some of the things that he does, then there's going to be a multiplicity of people of his caliber. Now, am I under the impression that we as a people need to live in such a way that we allow ourselves, watch this, on our own to perpetuate a victimized position? No. Do I support that? No, I don't support that at all, that we will perpetuate a lifestyle of being victimized. However, the challenge that we face right about now is based upon Florida. There are many people, many states that look at, if you will, they look at um, California and they look to see how California is going to do. A lot of people do that. When we were going through experiences with COVID, the Los Angeles Unified School District was one of the main districts that was looked upon because of how big it is. Florida, we have a problem. And the problem where we have come to is when we start seeing certain things and we start paying attention to certain things, or we neglect certain things. I don't know if many of you have fully abreast or fully aware. And let me tell you something, it's about 210 pages. I have not finished. I think I'm on page 10, 15 about the new standards as far as in Florida as it relates to the history of Black people. And when we talk about the history of Black people, now it has become, I don't know how many of you remember whiteout. Anybody remember whiteout? Whiteout purpose was to white out mistakes, whether written in blue ink, red ink, black ink, pink ink, whatever the ink was, the colorization of the ink. Whiteout was supposed to smear it out and help you be able to write over or whatever. It looks like it's not a whiteout that's being done. It's a blackout that's being done. And there is this thing that is coming up that history is trying to be, they're trying to erase all kind of history. Now, people can make up what they want to make up. And so I begin to look at some of the topics. I begin to look at some of the topics as it relates to the standards that Florida did. Because I want y'all to understand something. And I want to say something from a very strong political perspective. What are you about to say, Lawford? What I'm about to say. We got to be careful. Now, my views as it comes to, stay with me, sexuality, gender identity has not changed at all. But my point being is, Governor DeSantis has made a decision to lump LGBT plus issues, black woke issues, race, quote unquote, based issues, and he is lumping everything together. Florida, we have a problem. We have a major, major problem. Now, in his standards or in the education standards that they voted on, their decision is what? Listen to this: age appropriate. So we don't want them to know about, at a certain age, we'll just let them know about the Martin Luther King Jr. Respectfully, I'm sick of that. The Harriet Tubmans, respectfully, I'm sick of that. Okay? I really need us to understand the plot. Now, you may look at me because I want us to understand something. All right, because there are Democrats who are like, this is not acceptable. There are Republicans who are saying it's not acceptable. There are independents who are saying this is not acceptable. And so what I want us to really gain from the conversation I'm going into is, there was a time Republicans were Republicans and Democrats were Democrats, and you knew the very strong distinctions between. There are Democrats who side with Republican perspectives. There are Democrats who side with certain perspectives. You see what I'm saying? Some Democrats, okay, they side with some things that are Republican. Republican side with some things that are Democrats. That's not where I'm going with this. I want us to really grasp the fact that, once again, and y'all know I don't go these ways, but when I go here, I'm going. Once again, like, did you pay attention? And one of the things that gets me, and non-black people can say whatever they want to say. Stay with me. But when black people start co-signing, when black people start signing their signature to buffoonery and craziness. Now, I won't say who, out of respect to the conversation. I'm not going to say who, but I am going to say this. A person who works in a school district that is administrator downgraded what is known as affirmative action. And I learned something, or I'm reminded and I learned something, and that is this. Just because you're older does not mean you are knowledgeable and have wisdom. Just because you're younger doesn't mean you lack it. He says affirmative action has never done anything for black people. I said, do you understand the historicity of affirmative action and of why affirmative action had to be established? It's to victimize it. It's about numbers. No, I said not what it's become, not what America, not what certain people, certain not what certain, not all white people, but white people have made affirmative action become numbers. That was never in its origin the plan of affirmative action. It was to allow Black people. Now I'm gonna say something because now I'm getting bothered by some other stuff too, but I'm gonna try to stay as focused as I can. It never was the intention of affirmative action to be something, watch this, that even some of, not all, some of our Asian community who feel now we have access because of X, Y, and Z. That was not the case. Many of us don't even know the history of why Christian schools were formed. When segregation was going on and they began to integrate, Christian schools were not developed, hear me well, do your history, trust me, that it was not established so that Christian people would not have to learn just from secular stuff and they wouldn't be able to talk to you. No, Christian schools in it and their origin were established, here we go, because a segment of white people did not want to integrate, did not want to be in the same room, with other Black people. Why were HBUs originated? Because they didn't want them in the college. This did so we start looking at, people talking. I was telling this person, I said, you're looking at the new Jim Crow law. You're examining it now. So I looked at some of the new standards. One of the arguments right now that is going, and they're trying to deny it, is the fact when in there it is written that the whole slavery concept. Let me go back before I go there. So age appropriate. So we're just going to talk about the positive. We're going to mention the Blacks, the Martin Luther Kings, and I said I'm sick of that. Let me tell you why. The reason why I'm sick of it, and here's the reason why I'm sick of it. With all due respect to Martin Luther King Jr., with all due respect to Sojourner Truth, you all do know there's more to us than the Martin Luther King Jr. We celebrate and we honor what he did. Many people celebrate Rosa Parks, but they don't talk about Claudette Colvin. They don't talk about C.T. Vivian. There's a whole group of people who are not mentioned that have contributed to us as a people. So you got to watch that narrative. You got to watch that narrative of when I just want to show you these people as if no one else has shapen this country. There will be no White House without Black hands. There will be no no White House without Black hands. The Black people built the White House. There are many inventions that we did not get a patent for. There are many inventions. There are many things that our people have not received. And it is sad to see where people are starting to go. So they don't want, so age appropriate, right? So age appropriate, this is in Florida, we got a problem. Age appropriate. So now when they get a certain age, then we can explain to them. But you can't rewrite history. Because if you get rid of this, You can't get rid of it. So all you're gonna do is talk about Martin Luther King Jr. You're gonna talk about Sojourner Truth. You're gonna talk about Harriet Tubman, but you can't talk about even those people. Here it is, without saying, well, why did they do the fight? Why are they fighting? Why are they? Why is there a boycott? Why there's something called Bloody Sunday? You can't dismiss that. You can't dismiss being hosed down and lynched. You can't dismiss that. I don't care who you are. I don't care if you're some of these conservative Black people. You cannot dismiss, and everybody is not moving from place of victim. So the person that worked in the district said to me, well, we can't just allow ourselves to be victimized. There's nobody being victimized. That's not the point. I said, if you're going to talk to me, you got to go into history. So now when you look at this, there's a name that's mentioned. And this is the thing that boils me. There's a name that's mentioned. Zachary Taylor. Anybody know about Zachary Taylor? Zachary Taylor is one of the people that is mentioned in part of the Florida New Standards and what can be taught. And so Zachary Taylor, Thaddeus Stevens, and who's the other person that's in that group? I think it was Frederick Douglass. They're all in this one group. And they're supposed to be about abolition and abolishing slavery. I want to know, because I just looked at people's names, and I was like, even though I was familiar with some, I said, oh, so you don't want the history of our people to be known, but you want to introduce Zachary Taylor. You want to introduce Thaddeus Stevens. You want to introduce these individuals and allegedly say Abraham Lincoln, was supposed to have been an individual who ended slavery, or his desire and his goals were to end slavery. Did you all not know that Thaddeus Stevens worked under the administration of Lincoln and told him, this is documented, told him that you need to end this? Not end it for the purpose of South versus North. He said, you need to end slavery. But Zachary Taylor, who was the president of the United States for what, 16, 18 months or something like that? Guess what? He owned slaves. And so when I'm hearing that he's supposed to be, he's one of the people that wants to help, and this is what y'all gonna teach, to abolish slavery, to be an abolitionist. He was about the abolition movement. No, he was not. He wanted to make sure that it didn't expand, here it is, to new territories. He made sure, because of his connections and what he was doing, he enslaved people. He had slaves. And if you really do your this man had 300 slaves. How are you talking about you want to abolish it and you have 300? As they say in this generation, make it make sense. You can't make that make sense. If it ain't making dollars, it ain't making sense. You can't make that make sense to me. You cannot. You cannot make this make sense to me. So now you want to bring up a bunch. So now, okay, I don't want to. So you don't want to hear, or you don't want students to hear about how some people that are white, mistreated, abused, murdered, slaved. So now, if you're all about history, so my question: why are you in? Why in the curriculum are you putting people in a curriculum and saying they were there to help abolish slavery, and they did not? There's a battle, not a battle. There is a recent, and I can't say her name right. there's a recent individual who's made a recent discovery concerning Alexander Hamilton. Some people say it's not. Wait, she is presented with some, I think, some books or something, or some of his memoirs or something, where he is owning slaves, though he's supposed to be that there are some things that he is trying to do, if you will, anti-slavery stuff, but there are more things concerning him, according to her, that has come to the surface, his memoirs or some book he had or some notes or something he had, where he is, watch this, listen to this, advocating slavery. This is a problem. Florida, we have a problem. Florida, we have a problem. This is an issue and a problem. And when you have the mitigated gall to open up your mouth and say that even though these people were enslaved, they learned agriculture, they learned farming, they learned engineering, and you're saying, and they, and it worked out for their personal benefit. Now, let me tell you the issue that I have with this. Let me tell you what the issue I have with this. Y'all ready for this? Here's the issue that I have with this. Because another same person was talking about y'all just being victims. I said, no, sir. Never would I confess to be a victim. He said to me, and some other people, he said, well, it did benefit them. I said, see, this is the problem. Too many of you black people are being whitewashed. That's y'all's problem. You're being whitewashed. You're being whitewashed. Did you just sit here and say, I said, I'm not talking about where people go somewhere and they learn a trade and it helps them to become better. No, he's saying, here's the benefit of slavery. The white man helped these black people learn how to farm. They was out there picking cotton. And here it comes. So let me tell you what I don't like. We sometimes have an issue. You hear me? We sometimes have an issue in trying to redeem something. And I'm going to get in trouble for this one, but I don't care. We have a problem with redeeming negativity. I'm going to say it again. We have a problem. So we have taken the NIG and we're okay with the GA, but we're not okay with the GER. And so we have made the GA a term of endearment. I often ask people, why in the world will we take something, because y'all do know GA and GER, NIG, finish the rest. Both of those words have history in racism. I told somebody, I said, I never in my life, and I'm not saying that hasn't happened, okay? I never, hear me well, I've never heard any of the people I know that are Mexican, speak Spanish, but specifically Mexicans, I've never heard them ever say, don't call me a wetback, call me a wetbacker. I never heard it. Never. Because you don't clean up something with negative connotations and we try to redeem stuff. And that's the same stuff that I believe personally has infested, affected, now is causing an effect in our own community. Why? Because we are now starting to be whitewashed by certain things. I can't remember the governor or the senator's name who stood in council and said colored people. It's ridiculous. And so now all I'm saying is this is just me, and And what I'm going to say, of course, because one of my coworkers, we real tight, but I don't subscribe to the ER and I don't subscribe to the GA. I don't want to be addressed as neither. And I have family members that love that word. I don't subscribe to either. I just don't. I don't subscribe to either. And I feel within myself, when you look at what DeSantis is doing and what the Board of Education is doing, and you're presenting lies in your standards. You're presenting lies because nobody's really going to go through that 210 page. But let me tell you, I'm going to go through it because what I went through and what I saw and what I looked at, and you're talking about Abraham Lincoln and you're talking about what he did, and no, we wasn't free when the Emancipation Proclamation was established. We weren't free. It was political. It had nothing to do with, I want to make sure slaves are free. Was it Thaddeus? I want to think it's Thaddeus Stevens, who was connected to a family that was wealthy. How do you leave? And he's mentioned in the standards. How does Thaddeus Stevens help abolish slavery when he writes? I want to wait. Is that him or that Hamilton? I want to make sure. Hold on. Let me think before I say it. I want to think it was Thaddeus Stevens, or was it John Jay? One of them. I can't remember right now. Either John Jay or Thaddeus Stevens. Maybe it was John Jay. But one of them, my point is, y'all ready for this? John Jay or one of them were he gave Jesus. He gave other enslaved Black people, and he passed them down to the next generation of people. Did y'all hear what I just said? It was passed down from one generation to the next. What in the world? Are you kidding me? So this is, it's like slave trade. Okay? So as the years go by, what's going to happen is we're going to extend this business. We're going to extend this business and we're going to keep it going. Okay? So I'm not going to abolish it, but I'm going to just carry it so far. And it's going to be the extension in my family. Are y'all hearing what I'm telling you? Like, are you serious? You're supposed to help abolish it, but you're not helping to abolish it. Listen to this. In 1799, Governor John Jay signed the gradual abolition law. This law did not free persons enslaved at the time of this enactment, but it did free their children gradually over a period of decades. This compromise is not what John Jay might have preferred, but it was what he could get out of a legislative field with slave owners. After him, John Jay's descendants, here it is, continued the fight against slavery. His son Peter is a member of the state assembly, pressed for laws to accelerate abolition, including one in it that eventually freed slaves, pre-1799 slaves excluded from the earlier law. But I want you to realize that it was gradual. And that's my issue. If you really want to stop people from fighting stuff, you fight it. Gradual? Gradual. No, stop it. No, we're not doing this. No, it's inhumane. No, we're not going to mistreat people this way. Gradual? And now you want to be, and then now the Board of Education in Florida, you want to put this in your curriculum. Make that make sense. Like it's so much. They want to analyze the course. One of the subjects is analyze the course, consequence, and influence of modern civil rights movement. Instruction includes the early civil rights movement to the modern era civil rights movement and define the modern era civil rights movement as an economic, social, and political movement. Instruction includes the events that led to the writing of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. Instruction includes the March on Washington and its influence on public policy. Are y'all listening to this? Instruction includes the immediate lasting effects of modern civil rights organizations, the NAACP, the Congress or CORE, Congress of Racial Equity, the Southern Christian Leadership Conference. Okay, instruction includes methods, different methods by coalitions, freedom rides, weigh-ins, sit-ins, boycotts, protests. But this is after the fact. And so my issue is, and it's so much more. But in a lot of these, so like here's another one, explain the struggles and successes for access to equal education opportunities for African Americans. Shut the front door, please. Did this say equal opportunities? Did this say equal opportunity for African Americans? Because so you think because Ruby Bridges walked in there with a whole bunch of people that did not want her in there, you actually think that we have equal. If it was so equal, then why did recently, here it is, race-based affirmative action was dismissed, but not legacy admissions? Why was it gender-based? Come on now, gender-based affirmative action. Y'all do know there's race-based affirmative action. There's gender-based affirmative action. And it is believed and it is proven, right? And it is proven that who is the more beneficiary of the affirmative action? Not Black women, not Black people, not Mexican women, white women. But you got rid of, because we want to make it a race thing. These are the challenges and issues that we have, and that is what's in there. So the reason why I brought up John is because it's gradual. Do y'all hear what I said? Gradual. How is it gradual? And then it's like because of the time they live in. So if it's your duty as free citizen Christian to regard capacity and justice done among those who are held as slaves, but to endeavor by lawful ways and means to enable them to share equally with us in that civil and religious liberty, which on the indulgent providence has blessed these states, into which those our brethren are by nature, and as much entitled, but you still haven't done anything. So we're celebrating the people, or we're celebrating somebody who really didn't do what they said they was going to do. And for me, that proposes an issue and a problem. So that's why I said Florida, we have a problem. And we have to look at this in its totality. So I would encourage you, take your time and go look at, go look at it. I'm still viewing it. I'm still looking at it. And I just shared just a brief thing. But and how about the part that says, in here, we're going to show how Black people perpetuated against violence, perpetuated against and by African Americans and each other. See, what you're trying to show is something, but we got to deal with all history. And it keeps mentioning the same people. Oh, I'm shocked as I keep reading. They said examine the key people who helped shape modern civil rights movement. Dr. Martin King Jr., Claudette Colvin. They actually have her in there. I am shocked. They got Stokely Carmichael in here. I am shocked. Fannie Lou Hamer. I am shocked. But do y'all know, and I cannot think of the two brothers' names off the top of my head right now, but did y'all know that before Meg Evers went through his, not Meg Evers, Emmett Till went through his experience, there were two other black young men that was, I believe, 7 and 9 years of age. And guess what happened to them? Somebody was playing spin the bottle, and the white girl, not the two young black men, the white girl kissed them on the cheek. She went home and told their dad. They came and got them. They came to get those young, and for days, those young boys did not have any type of communication with their parent because the young lady said, the little girl said she kissed, not they kissed, she kissed. But y'all don't want this type of history. You don't want to accept the fact that there's a lot of racism and systematic racism. And the sad part about it, January 6th, y'all was shown it. Your own people turned against you. Now, unlike some other people, I don't believe in, one of my coworkers today was like, I said, no, I don't believe that. I don't believe every white person has is racist. I don't believe that saved my life. I don't believe every white person is racist. I don't, and I won't say it because there were some white people who marched and put their lives in jeopardy. So I don't have a problem with, if that's what you want to do, DeSantis, but don't whitewash our history. Don't try to blot it out and tell us we can't, we need to, no. Your government, your states, your cities have been built, have been established, have been founded on the backside, literally the bruised side of black people. And this is the problem. So when you start hearing people talk like this, people don't want to hear these type of conversations. But I'm telling you, if you look at Amos and you look at the prophet Micah, they spoke against the social ills of the day. They spoke against the social ills of the day. And we have to do in return. Man, I wish I could remember those two young males. Man. And it was before Emmett Till, if I remember correctly. Before Emmett Till, because the girl kissed him. And they have scars from that to this day. Scars. Like PTSD. Because not what they did, because of something. Okay, I think I found it. 2 black boys, 7 and 9-year-old, arrested in jail for 3 months after a white girl kissed them on the cheek. Did y'all hear what I just said? They don't want to talk about this stuff. On October 28, 1958, a mob of white men in Monroe, North Carolina, stormed the home of a 9-year-old boy named James Hanover Thompson, threatening to lynch him after a white girl told her parents that she kissed him on the cheek when they were playing together that day. James and another black boy, David Fuzzy Simpson, 7 years old, who the girl had also kissed on the cheek, were arrested by police, held in jail without contact with their family for days, denied an attorney, and sentenced to indefinite terms, ultimately serving over 3 months. We're talking, did y'all hear what I said? I'm talking about a 7 and 9-year-old. Listen, early in the day, a group of children, including James and David, were playing together outside when they started a kissing game, during which a white girl their age, Sissy, kissed James on the cheek. After the girl mentioned the kiss to her parents, her father grabbed a shotgun and arranged the mob to the Thompsons' home, where they threatened to lynch James, David, and their mothers. The boys were not home when the mob arrived, but the police found them shortly thereafter, jumped out with their guns before taking them, and were beaten by police. James and David, in an interview that I saw, actually talked about how bad they were beaten in the back. 7 and 9. 7 and 9 years old. So all I'm saying is, like, I got connections with close to white people. I got connections with people who are Mexican. I got connections with people who are Asian. I got, you know what I'm saying? So I'm not on that. So that's not my concern. But it's just, you cannot whitewash history. And these are the things that is happening. And so and it always disturbs me when certain people try to teach a history, you know, they try to teach a history that they have no clue on. And this is where the challenges are. So I look at it like this. If it happened in Florida, it can happen elsewhere. I don't, and so one of the co-workers, administrators said, well, we always remember the past. How are we going to go to the present? I said, but people won't be able to appreciate where they are if they don't understand where they came from or where they come from. And we have to learn how to appreciate where we have come from, and we build on everybody. And like VP Kamala said today, our Vice President Kamala Harris said today, don't try to gaslight us. And this is where the situation is. So I just want us to really be, mindful, keep your eyes open. And I just want to share that. I'm done. Like I said, go and look at it for yourself. Go look at it for yourself. And as you go look at it for yourself, it's like 200 and something pages. I haven't read the rest of it, but I'm going to go through it. But I just don't like the fact, don't try to name somebody, put them in the list as if they was really for abolition and they weren't. Don't do that. Mm-mm. Don't try to say somebody is for a person and they're not for a person. Okay? As I often tell y'all, even when I'm doing Bible studies and stuff like that, do not take my word. Do your own research. Examine it, look at it, but understand the history of it. Understand the history of it. Nobody should be mishandled, mistreated, and denied. I am not one of those that feel that we should make white people feel bad, because he or she was born by individuals who taught them how to hate somebody whose skin is not like theirs. I know too many people have fought against it and stand up against it. In closing, I remember watching the Jeffersons. It indicated to us just how deep hatred goes. When George Jefferson came to a Ku Klux Klan meeting and did not know he was coming to a Ku Klux Klan meeting, and the person pretty much said, "We're here about you." And when he said he was here about you, I think he had a stroke or a heart attack, but he fell out. During that time, CPR was not just chest compressions, it was mouth to mouth. He saw him down there, the boy's son. Was like, "Can anybody help my dad?" George Jefferson moves him out the way, does chest compressions, takes his black lips, and blows them to this white man's mouth, who pretty much told him he needs to be lynched and killed. And it's people like you that need to be killed. And he saved his life. When the man came back to his consciousness, the son indicated to the father that this black man had saved his life. Well, guess what? He looked at his son, and he looked at George Jefferson and looked at his son and said, "He saved me?" He said, "Yes." And then he told his son, "You should have let me die." That right there, the son was raised in that hateful environment, but he saw how the black man looked beyond the hatred to help somebody. This is what I'm talking about. So Florida, we have a problem. And I hope we just be consistent, out there and speak out, because, and let me tell you something. And I want to say this again. I don't want to hear people talk about, well, there's some black people. Let me tell you something. Just because you black don't make you right. Just because you're white don't make you wrong. But my point is this. Don't try to use whereas black people in agreement with that. Because there's a community of people who fail to separate and think woke theology, or not theology, perspectives is there's something we need to be awakened to. Because I don't care what nobody say. There have been some reparations that have been given to many people, but it definitely ain't been black people. So, yeah. All right, I'm done. I hope y'all have a good night. I just wanted to share some of that with you all, and take care. All right.